The continuing outbreak of bird flu in the U.S. has alarmed researchers and prompted new efforts to track the virus that's already caused the deaths of tens of millions of birds from Europe to Antarctica. But as William Brangham reports, as H5N1 continues to jump into mammals, most recently dairy cows, many scientists are concerned that we're not watching closely enough as this virus continues to spread. A warning, this story contains scenes of animals in distress.
Evolutionary biologist Michael Warby at the University of Arizona is one of many scientists around the world trying to untangle bird flu's latest twist: how and when it spread to dairy cows.
The jump into cattle probably took place between mid-November and mid-January, and so we're months into this already.
And since then, it spread like wildfire, infecting dairy cows in at least 46 herds across 9 states.
It seems to be spreading cow to cow in some fashion, but we don't know exactly how that is. For example, it could just be mechanical transmission as one cow leaves a milking machine, leaves virus on it, and then the next cow comes in. Or is this going respiratory like flu does with humans?
In late April, the USDA mandated that milking dairy cows being transported across state lines need to be tested for bird flu. Do you think we have got now enough surveillance out there to know what this virus is doing and where it's moving?
I think we still have a long way to go, honestly. We are still sort of dealing with a pretty limited number of samples from a limited number of farms, and that limits exactly how much we can understand. For example, you can actually figure out, just like we did with COVID, the number of people infected is doubling every 2 days. We still don't know that with cattle.
But even the initial discovery that bird flu had jumped species and was now circulating in cows was thanks to a bit of epidemiological work by a handful of veterinarians.
The main common denominators with the cattle were a sudden decrease in feed intake, a sudden decrease in milk production, variable fevers, variable manure consistency.
Dr. Drew Magstead is a veterinarian at Iowa State's Vet Diagnostic Lab. He was helping colleagues in the Texas Panhandle and Kansas who were dealing with a bunch of sick cows, but then a new clue emerged. On these same farms where cows were sick, a lot of cats had gone missing, gotten sick, or had died. So you thought, we have to check H5N1, the bird flu, because it's been in this area, but you really didn't think that was going to be the case.
Well, yeah, and we didn't end up ruling it out. We ended up finding the virus. The intriguing part here is that this virus in cattle doesn't seem to be causing any mortality. After several weeks, the animals recover. It's very different from the infection in other mammalian species.
In fact, unlike cows, this bird flu has been deadly to the nearly 24 other mammal species that have been infected in the U.S., from a polar bear in Alaska to a mountain lion in Colorado to raccoons and foxes. Many of those animals were likely infected by eating dead animals that were carrying the virus. But by far, the biggest impact here in the U.S. has been on birds. Since this strain of avian influenza first arrived in the U.S. in early 2022, brought here by migratory birds, more than 90 million domestic birds, mostly chickens and turkeys, have died or been intentionally killed across 48 states. And unlike previous outbreaks, this variant has affected more wild birds and spread across a wider geographic area, crossing down into South America at the end of 2022.
I think the alarm really went off when it reached Peru, and that's a massive seabird community, and we saw just unprecedented mortality in the seabirds there.
UC Davis's Dr. Ralph Van Streels is a wildlife veterinarian based in Argentina, and he watched as the virus arrived and decimated bird populations and then made another jump into mammals. An estimated 24,000 sea lions died from the outbreak. It was one of the earliest known mass mortality events from bird flu in mammals.
At first, we weren't sure if each of those sea lions was getting infected by eating a bird, but it became pretty obvious pretty quick that this was spreading from mammal to mammal.
In Argentina, Dr. Van Striels estimated that the virus killed 17,000 elephant seal pups and an unknown number of adults, a blow to that population that may take decades to recover.
It's definitely very distressing, I can say. We've worked with these animals for many years, so we've known these populations, we've seen these colonies. And on the one hand, we are prepared because we expected it. On the other, nothing can prepare you for it.
Earlier this year, researchers confirmed that bird flu had spread all the way to Antarctica, primarily affecting birds known as skuas. But so far, Antarctica's iconic penguins haven't been affected.
But this virus can mutate quite quickly, right? As it did when it started infecting mammals. So it could mutate again and start infecting penguins. So we're not quite out of the woods yet.
And it's that possibility of mutation, where the virus adapts and becomes better suited to spreading from mammal to mammal, that has many on edge, particularly now that H5N1 was discovered spreading in all those dairy cows. While experts stress it's still very unlikely that this outbreak will lead to the next human pandemic, and government officials say pasteurization kills the virus in milk and dairy products, there are real risks for those who work in close contact with cows. In March, a farm worker in Texas was infected but had mild symptoms and recovered. The CDC says it's monitoring people exposed to infected cattle, but admits that only 33 people have been tested.
What we have is a situation where the virus, in a sense, has more shots on goal to jump from a related species, a mammal like us, and now people are no doubt being exposed on a daily basis in pretty large numbers.
Warby says it's a stark reminder that we have not learned as much as we hoped from the COVID pandemic.
We need to be spending billions more to do things like routinely monitor not the tip of the iceberg of cattle who are visibly ill, but routine monitoring to just find, okay, is there something that shouldn't be spreading in this animal species or in humans? And we're still not doing that.
And with more than 9 million dairy cows in the U.S. alone, getting eyes on where this virus may go next remains a monumental challenge for animal and human health. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham.